Yeah, get it on. Got to get on. No choice but to get on. Mandate, get it on. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sharing the show. We love that about you. The guys from TRIGGERnometry is here. I was on their show, but I don't think they've been on this show. So good to see you guys.
Good to be back. Yeah, thanks for having us.
So off the air, I gave one of my Save It for the Air thing, which is it's an old carryover from Loveline. I used to go in and Drew would go, "Oh, what a weekend." And I'd go, "Save it for the air," because I don't want to hear the same story twice. And I wanted to, but they said, "Good to see you." I said, "Good to see you." And then I said, "Save it for the air." Well, what I was going to say on the air, now that we're on the air, is I look forward so much to speaking to rational people, normal people, people who can think in a sort of linear fashion, who aren't batshit fucking crazy, because I'm in LA. And so I feel like a prisoner who just in solitary who gets a book. You know what I mean? Like finally something. And I look at you guys as that way. Comedians, but with the strong sort of compass.
Yeah, that's what we try and do, because we acknowledge that particularly after 2020, the world was already going insane after Trump and Brexit. And it went into hyperdrive during the pandemic. Just weird things were happening. Do you remember when everyone just went, "Oh, today we put a black square on Instagram"? Why? No, well, if you don't do it, you're racist. Put a black square.
Yes, I was told to do that. And I said, nope. And, yeah, it was a very, as I say quite a bit about COVID, I said, I learned nothing about viruses, but I learned a lot about people.
Yeah.
The real lesson of COVID was not virology. Like, we're still having arguments about ivermectin. I'm not qualified for that, but I got to see how people reacted. And it was pretty devastating how most people reacted.
Oh, man. And Joe Rogan, he has a great line about this. We were just in Austin and saw him on stage. He said that we lost a hell of a lot of people during COVID, and most of them are still alive.
Yes. That's a perfect, it's a perfect line.
It's so true.
In a way, it was sort of good because it was a tell, and it was a way to kind of sort people out. So, I suppose if you said, oh my God, let's just say you have a partner, a child, or a nanny, or whomever in your home, and everyone's in the home, and somebody screams, "Oh my God, there's a fire." When you then see your partner run upstairs and grab the jewelry and then knock one of the kids over on the way out the front door and then fly out the front door and then slam the door behind them, you go, "Oh, that's an interesting tell." Like, I've now learned something about you. Now,
I think that's unfair. I've been a teacher. There's some kids who deserve to be left in the fire.
That's a good take. But and I'll tell you a joke I used to have, which. But what I'm saying is, COVID really wasn't a fire. It was a fire drill.
Yes.
Where we got to see how the governor of California reacted, which is shut the schools and the beaches. I'm going to the French Laundry. Okay. Oh, good. It's a tell. Now we know who you are. We know who all the people are who yelled at you for walking on a horse trail without a mask. Like, I got good and bad. I got to see how everyone reacted, and now I know who they are. I used to do a bit where I was a shop teacher way back in the day on the radio, but it reminded me of putting teaching and fires together. The bit was, I didn't make my seating chart alphabetically. I do it by size. I put the fat kids in the middle, away from the exit, so they don't get their fat ass stuck in the exit and send us all to a fiery grave. And I put the spindly kids on the corners, on the outside of it. But yeah, it's and also it sort of continues. But now with what's going on in the Middle East and all that kind of stuff. But there is kind of one consistent, and I'm curious on getting, or constant, I should say. I'm interested in getting your takes on it. That crazy side will always be on the wrong side of everything. And I'm trying to kind of figure, is it just flat defiance, Or are they just a calculator that's missing a couple of buttons and they can never arrive at the right equation? Like, how do I know where all the kooks, I live in LA, like, how do I know where they're going to land on everything? And how do I know they're always going to be wrong? And how can they be that consistent?
Well, you said it yourself. They're crazy. I mean, it's just how they think about the world. I think they just have a view that is so detached from reality that they can make anything work. And I mean, with Israel, you see it. The things that they're saying don't make any logical sense.
Right, but is it based on them being kooks? Because to me, it feels like they have an adolescent defiant disorder, which is they would go, okay, Israel, where would everyone I hate come down on this? And then they would stand with Israel. Okay, well then I'm just going to do it's sort of Trump derangement syndrome. You know what I mean? Like Trump derangement syndrome. Joe Biden is not making policy. It's not his own policy. He's doing the opposite of whatever Trump would do on any subject, right? It's literally just a defiance issue. Or it could be Joe Biden, it could be Rob Reiner. He would think, what would Trump want to do about the border or Israel or any subject, COVID, and then go, okay, I'm going to do the opposite.
To me, what this is, Adam, is an ideology. And once you look at it as an ideology, then it makes a lot more sense. Because what does an ideology do? Ideologies are particularly powerful because they abdicate responsibility of the individual. So they don't have to think for themselves anymore because you follow an ideology. So whatever the ideology would dictate, that is what you do. If you see all white people as oppressors and racists and living in a society fueled by white supremacy, then that means that anybody who says America is great or supports America is automatically evil.
And also there's a compass that they use. I mean, I call it weaponized empathy, which is the compass they always use is if you are the oppressed, then you must be right.
Right.
If you're losing a fight, you must be the moral person. And if you're winning the fight, let's say, you must be the immoral person.
Yes, I agree with that. I also was thinking about it the other day, and I was talking to Dr. Drew about it, which is, I think sort of comedically, they have lost their free will. They've lost their free will in the sense that they're no longer doing what they want to do. They're doing the opposite of what we would like them to do, which is a sort of reverse engineered loss of free will. So like if you said, I used to talk to kids on Loveline all the time. If you're talking to a young woman and she's dating a black man, and you go, "Oh, you're attracted to black men," and they go, "Yes," and then you go, "Oh, and your dad's very upset about it." "Yes, he's very upset about it." "Why?" "Well, my dad's a horrible racist, and I hate my dad." So, are you dating the black person because you love black people, or are you dating the black person because you hate your dad? So you've lost your free will without really knowing it. You're sort of doing, Gavin Newsom, our governor in California, kind of lost his free will because when it came to COVID or anything, he just does the opposite of what Trump or anyone on the right would want him to do. So it's not free will.
It's not, like teenage oppositional defiance disorder.
That's what it is.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And it's also as well, if you think that Donald Trump is literally a Nazi, if you think that he is the embodiment of white supremacy, let's ignore for the fact how ridiculous an opinion that is, but let's just say that you believe in it. Then obviously you are going to do every single thing in defiance and opposition to literal Hitler.
Sure.
That's who wouldn't do that? Logically, from their point of view, it makes complete sense.
It's not only logical, it's noble.
Yeah.
The people in the French resistance, when France was occupied by the Nazis, are heroes.
Yeah.
They're noble, and
Actually, that's unfair. No Frenchman has ever been noble. Let's make that clear.
handful of French resistance fighters, and by the way, of course they would forge documents and wear Nazi uniforms to try to sneak across the border and so on and so forth, because they're trying to stop Hitler, and nobody would fault them for that. So you're right. First thing, start by establishing this person you disagree with is Hitlerian. Second part, do whatever you want.
But what's interesting is I actually don't think they really believe the things that they say, because if they did, your point is correct. Wouldn't they be in armed resistance against, Trump when he was in power? Wouldn't they be, suspending democracy to prevent him from being reelected if they actually believed it? So I think there's I think they use language quite often to manipulate rather than because they're trying to communicate the ideas that they believe. It's a manipulation tactic as well. Like, let's call this guy a Nazi because that's how we win, not because we actually think that he's a Nazi. And as someone, I'm from a Jewish background, what they've done to that word is criminal. It's criminal.
I agree. And I agree with you in that they don't really believe it. Just like, when I would say all the time, during COVID, when all these mayors and governors of blue states would be found at the hairdressers or at the restaurant or whatever, and they'd go, people would say, they're such hypocrites. And I'd go, yeah, they're hypocrites, but they also don't believe it. Because if you said to me, there's swarms of marauding killer bees, Africanized killer bees outside, and you saw me sitting in the park having a picnic, it'd be because I didn't believe it. It wouldn't be because I'm a hypocrite. It's like, I don't really believe what I'm saying. I'm talking about killer bees constantly, but where can you find me Saturday? Sitting in the park. Well, that means I don't believe it, because there are things people do believe. Like, you believe seatbelts work, and you pretty dutifully put your seatbelt on when you get in a car because you understand what that is. Masking and whatever else, everyone at SoFi Stadium taking pictures with Magic Johnson with their mask around their chin. They don't believe it, is what I'm saying. Because if you really do, I mean, if you look, people believe the sun is damaging and they put on sunscreen before they leave the house. They don't tell you to put on sunscreen and then leave without sunscreen.
Which brings up a very interesting point, which is climate change.
Right.
Is that not such an interesting issue around that? So many of the people who are so concerned about that issue don't seem to act as if they're actually concerned about that issue. Isn't that funny?
Oh, my God. You got to find the tweet to get me going. Somebody sent me a tweet yesterday. Well, yeah. Now, I'm old, and I grew up with a hippie mom, so I've been hearing about the Ice Age and then global warming. And
global cooling as well.
Well, that was the Ice Age.
That was the Ice Age in the 70s. That's what they were saying.
Yeah,
and
lots of talk about the ozone.
Yep.
And propellants in cans of deodorant.
I remember that.
That's what's going to destroy the ozone. No, I've said it 100 billion times. The most expensive real estate in the world is a stretch of PCH Highway in Malibu that houses the bottom of the market. You could buy a tear-down shack for $15 million. Tear down for $15 million. I'm not using any hyperbole. The land is worth more. And it goes all the way up to Jay-Z and Beyonce's place for $200 million. Why would that real estate be as expensive as it is against the Pacific Ocean? How long has it been there? You could have bought a house next to the Pacific Ocean on PCH 50 years ago for $75,000. And then 25 years ago, that same house would have been $1.4 million, and now that same house is $17 million. How do they get insurance? Why would they choose to live next to a boiling ocean that was rising every day?
Yeah,
it's the same. By the way,
same thing.
That's not Republican Row. That's all global. That's all global warming people who live in those houses. Of course, they don't believe it. And then they fly privately, of course.
I love that. I love the fact that they come out and they go, look, guys, the world's dying. The world's ending. We need to think. We need to do better. This is why you need to eat cockroaches. Go eat the cockroaches, and I'll be off on my private jet around the world.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Oh, well, you eat the cockroaches. I'll be at Nobu in Malibu. And by the way, if somebody shows up with my spicy tuna rolls and I see a cockroach on the plate, I'm suing this place and shutting it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have the article. It was just a screenshot that somebody sent me, which I just love. But I don't think that people... I wish people would go back and sort of bathe in these old proclamations. UN predicts disaster if global warming not checked. This is from June 1989. Okay, so this is 34 years ago. And June 1989, entire nations could be wiped off the face of the earth by rising sea levels if global warming trend has not been reversed by the year, everyone sitting down, 2000, which is right around the corner. Oh, no, wait, I think we passed it. They called this one, it was 11 years, less than 11 years. It was 10 and a half years from the year 2000, and they made this proclamation. You can read down it. I think under it, it says, you know, global warming expert or UN expert. I think there's a little more there. But anyway, the experts spoke in 1989.
The most depressing thing for me is that 1989 was 34 years ago.
Yes. I know. I was out of high school by then. Jesus Christ. So, yes, they don't believe it.
Extinction Rebellion people that we have in the UK? These are the people who glue themselves to roads. Just Stop Oil. They want us to stop using oil. Yes. They glue themselves to roads using glue made of oil.
Is there more on that pic? That's the screenshot. Oh,
Did you see that picture? There's this wonderful picture.
Oh, sorry. It's a senior UN environmental official. Right. All right. So that's an official job. Yeah. You work for the UN and you're in a senior position, and this is your proclamation in 1989. All right.
You know, but to me, there's hypocrisy. That's a beautiful way of expressing this hypocrisy, which Konstantin just did. But also there was this picture that went viral all over Twitter. Do you remember it? With the girl from Just Stop Oil wearing a Just Stop Oil T-shirt.
On a plane.
On a plane.
Yes.
Going on holiday.
Going on
vacation, yeah.
I do not blame them. I blame the people who listen to them. I do not blame the handful of power-hungry officials in this country or out of this country, Canada, wherever, Australia, New Zealand, some places in Europe. I don't really blame the power-hungry officials who were locking people in their houses and closing schools and trying to get people fired from their jobs. I blame everyone for listening to them. It's their fault. It's our fault. Nobody should have gone along with it. That's the scary part, is how easy we're able to get all these sort of zombies to go along with things that were clearly not happening.
And that's so interesting, the point you made earlier, because there's been a real flip. Like the left used to think Big Pharma was the enemy.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And then just overnight, boom, they're your friends again.
All you'd have to do with my hippie mom is put the word big in front of something and she would hate it. Big government, big military, big pharma. If I didn't like one of her friends, I'd just go, she'd say, Marge is coming over. I'd go, Big Marge is coming over? What? Fuck that cunt.
I was wondering if we're going to be allowed to swear on the podcast. Thank you for clarifying, Adam.
You may.
I feel right at home. That is a word you guys don't use in this country anything like as much as you should.
Well, there's a strategy.
What's the strategy? Because where we come from...
It's a greeting.
It's a greeting. How you doing, you cunt?
I understand that. What I'm saying is we like to save it for special occasions because we can really hurt somebody with it.
It's like fine china. You only bring it out for special occasions.
Yes, you guys use it all the time. It lost its meaning. Essentially, it's what we did with calling someone a racist.
Right.
You know, now that we've officially labeled every human being a racist in the United States, now no one's a racist.
No one's a racist.
Yeah.
It used to be a big... I mean, just think about your mind, where your mind would go several years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, where someone goes... did you hear that celebrity's racist rant or something, or racist? It was like, oh my God, what'd he say? What'd he say? What'd he say? Now they go, hey, you know, Tucker Carlson's a racist. I go, yeah, all right. Everyone's a racist. You burnt it out. They should have saved it for special occasions.
I completely agree. My favorite one of the story of this year was when people went, because I'm a huge Santana fan, the guitarist, the Latin guitarist. They went, did you hear what Carlos Santana did? He went on a transphobic rant on one of his concerts. And what happened was he went in one of his concerts, he went, you know, I believe men are men and women are women.
Yeah, no, I know. J.K. Rowling's, all of them. Martina Navratilova, they're all, did you hear what they had to say? But they said a man was a man and a woman was a woman. Oh, my God.
J.K. Rowling's a Nazi, but that's how the Third Reich started, just a few children's books, you know.
Yeah.
I have a couple of clips I wanted to get your head on. First, I think Konstantin's super viral video from the beginning of the year, just to give people a refresh, just the last minute on it, that everyone just loved and shared. And I think you should tell us the origin story of this vid, but we'll play the last minute of it.
And so, I put it to you, ladies and gentlemen, there is only one thing we can do in this country to stop climate change, and that is to make scientific and technological breakthroughs that will create the clean energy that is not only clean, but also cheap. And no, thank you. And the only, I want everyone to get home on time today, which is not going to happen. And the only thing that wokeness has to offer in exchange is to brainwash bright young minds like you to believe that you are victims, to believe that you have no agency, to believe that what you must do to improve the world is to complain, is to protest, is to throw soup on paintings. And we on this side of the house are not on this side of the house because we do not wish to improve the world. We sit on this side of the house because we know that the way to improve the world is to work, is to create, it is to build. And the problem with woke culture is that it's trained too many young minds like yours to forget about that. Thank you very much.
Well said. So what was that? What's the origin of that?
So it was a debate. They asked, there's 4 people on each side of the debate. They asked us to talk about whether woke culture had gone too far. And I actually said at the beginning of the speech how tired I'm talking about this because it's been a conversation that's been going on for years. So I thought, how can I explain to the people, young people there at this university, many of whom are woke, how can I persuade them, rather than talking down to them and calling them bad and stupid, etc., how can I actually convince them that their approach isn't getting them the results that they want? And I thought climate change was a very good example of this because they all care about this issue a lot, which is fine. So let's look at the facts. The facts are, in the UK, we're responsible for 2% of global carbon emissions. Even if we ended our civilization, shut down our power plants, it would make no difference to climate change whatsoever. And that's because instead of whining about things, which is what that generation's been taught, they've been taught that being a whiny little bitch is the way you get stuff.
Watch the language, but keep going. Well,
but it's true. That's how they've been parented.
Yeah, what I'm starting to realize is so much of this is just unbridled narcissism.
Yeah.
You know, we used to talk to kids about the golden rule and so on and so forth. Then we decided every kid was, you know, a superhero. And now they're been weaponized and then let loose on us. And they also work for, you know, LA Times and New York Times and CNN, and they're in government. And it's a narcissism, because if you think about every one of these global warming nut jobs, they always start with, I'm not going to see my 40th birthday. I want to raise children and live, and you're destroying my, you know, they're up because they're 22. And according to their math, which is an ever-evolving rolling number, they're not, you know, if you listen to them, well, if a 23-year-old is not going to see their 35th birthday, then I guess that is a legitimate gripe. And they've settled their own science. So it becomes about them. I believe all roads lead to narcissism. I believe all things COVID ended up being a narcissistic thing. And all the movements with, I stand with Ukraine or Black Lives Matter, it all becomes this narcissistic tail-chasing endeavor.
I mean, and that is the problem, because the reality is it's the fault of the parents and the teachers, whereby you couldn't tell a kid off. I remember once I was having a parents' evening, and this mother came to me and she was saying to me, oh, my son is so badly behaved. And I went, well, yes, he is. And she went, he doesn't respect me. And I go, well, he doesn't respect anyone in school. And then she goes, it's really bad, Mr. Foster. He's always on the iPad. What should I do?
Right.
I might take it off him. She goes, how do you do that? You go, well, of course he's a little maniac. That's how he's been bred. That's how he's been taught. He's taught that boundaries don't apply to him, consequences don't apply to him, and he can literally do whatever he wants.
In Britain, it's parents' evening.
Yeah.
So we call that open house here. I like parents' evening better. Open house suggests there's going to be drinks. You know what I mean? When I go to an open house in an evening, I want to be handed a flute of champagne when I walk in.
There's
none of that.
There's drinks afterwards for the teachers where they just, like, okay, finally.
Everyone just goes into the teacher's lounge and starts pounding beers.
Yeah. It's the only way to get through it.
It's the only way to cope.
We have also, I want to get your take on what's going on with Israel and Palestine, and it's perfect. Once again, it is just, what would a sane person do? What would a sober person do? Who would a practical person side with in this debate, Palestine or Israel? And then once they figure out that all the sober, sane people who think in a linear fashion would, of course, side with Israel, then they side with Palestine. Again, they've lost their free will so much that they're put in a position to defend terrorists and terrorism and barbarism. That's how much of their free will they've lost.
And also, I think it's the other point that we talked about earlier, which is they see Palestinians as victims.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And so, therefore, whatever happens, their sympathies with Palestine and Palestinians.
Yes.
Automatically. It doesn't matter what they've done, doesn't matter what's happened, and some of the stuff we've seen over the last few days. I said it on Twitter. I said this has been a very useful period to working out who's who. It's been very useful.
Like COVID was useful to figure out who the people are, and now this is another one to figure out who the people are.
You know, it's the narrative arc from Batman, the Joker. That's his central theme of what he's trying to do. He says, what I'm trying to show you is when the chips are down, these people will tear each other apart. And that's all of these moments are who is going to be outside your house with a shotgun when the zombies come. That's them.
Yeah, and it also, back to the theme, which is, and we have it here in this country, if one group is not doing as well as the next group, then they must be being held down by the group that is doing well, which is totally false and is very destructive to the group that is not doing well, because you've made up a problem, and then you're going to address a made-up problem instead of really focusing on the nuts and bolts of why this group isn't doing well. And, of course, they will continue to languish because you've directed all your energy in the wrong direction.
I think that part of the problem as well is that in the UK, for example, we have got this what we call the commentariat class, which is these journalists who talk about everything, and they have an opinion about everything. And then you go, we're listening to you about this and about that and about COVID and about Ukraine and about this. And you go, now, unless you're some next level genius who has insightful opinions about everything, or maybe you just have surface level analysis. That's also the problem that I think is that the people who we think are experts and are giving us our news really they know nothing.
I found this during Ukraine, man. I found, because I'm from Russia, my wife's Ukrainian, I have a lot of family in Ukraine, and I'd be invited into studios where you could tell the people who were asking the questions, they had absolutely no idea what they were talking about. They literally didn't know what they were talking about, and they are delivering the news to you.
No, it's literally these people are over at CNN in a makeup chair, and somebody walks in and says, you're going on in 11 minutes. Have you ever heard the word hydroxychloroquine? No? Well, let me tell you, You're going to be an expert in about 9 minutes from now, all right? You go out there. Have you ever heard of ivermectin? No. Okay. Go out there and be an expert on that. You have 8 minutes now. Remember those 2 words. Practice pronouncing these 2 words you've never heard in your fucking life. Practice, and then go out there and look into the camera and look stern and sober and start lecturing everybody on the dangers of these things.
Yeah, and use that social sciences degree to talk about a virus.
Right. Yeah, you're right. How the fuck would they know about... There's no 2 subjects further apart than COVID and Ukraine. But they're fucking experts on all of it, having no experience in any of it.
And so much tribalism as well, Adam, because it's like if you have a certain position on Ukraine, then that means you have to have a certain position on COVID or the vaccine. It's like, how are these 2 things related?
Well, that's how I know they're lying.
Yeah.
The reason I know they're lying, and I always use kind of Hollywood as an example, is if you showed up in Hollywood and you said, who's going to win the Super Bowl, this year, you'd have 10,000 different opinions, And if you said, like, what's the best film of the year? You'd break it off into this group thought that was the best. The other thought was boring and slow. They liked this group. I mean, if you told Hollywood who makes the best automobile, because rich people in Hollywood, you see them in a Mercedes, you see them in a BMW, you see them in a Ford, you see them in, well, maybe not the Ford, you see them in a Lexus. The point is they don't agree on anything, and then COVID comes around, and they're lockstep on everything. How is that possible? You telling me you're not going to have a group of Hollywood people who go, I don't think shutting the schools is a good idea, or hey, if you want to take ivermectin, then let them take it. That's a choice for the doctor. I mean, why wouldn't there would naturally be those groups?
See, Adam, this is how we know we're all getting old, because this idea of like, just let people do what they want and suffer the consequences of their own actions, that is anathema to these people. They've completely lost connection with the idea that you're allowed to make mistakes and then be responsible for the consequences.
But back to the narcissism. Right. Remember, the argument is you have to get vaccinated so you don't bring COVID to me. I have an elderly parent and blah, 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 blah. Even when they were saying that the vaccine, you get vaccinated, you don't get it, and you don't spread it. All right, well, that should have been the end of your vaccinated ass being interested in whether I was vaccinated, because you're now done. You got vaccinated, you can't get it. So you should have zero interest on whether your neighbor gets it. But yet, you doubled down.
They like telling people what to do.
Oh, they love it. And
they love it.
They love it. They love it.
I know.
It's almost a sexual thrill they get out of it. I told somebody in Walmart to put their mask on. I haven't felt like that in years.
I know.
Oh, God.
Which is fine on a sort of, micro level, although it's despicable. It's sad when the people that are running the government get infected with that loving to tell people what to do bug, which they did.
I want to ask you, though, Adam, do you think it's inevitable that those people are always going to win? Because those of us who just do your own thing, suffer the consequences, whatever, we're never going to get together and be like, let's impose our view on everybody else. Whereas they believe in it. They want to impose it on everybody
they're always
else.
going to win. I was having this conversation with somebody the other day. We've all had a fucked up roommate or two. And the reason they're always going to win is because they're the fucked up roommate in this equation. Yeah. You're the roommate who says, look, I just want a clean kitchen and some peace around here. I want to bang my girlfriend on a futon with the door closed, and I want peace. And so what ends up happening is your girlfriend's coming over and there's a sink full of dishes, and it's all your roommate. He made lasagna last night, and it's all his stuff. And then you go into his room, and he's ripping a bong load and punching a pillow, and you go, hey, man, my girl's coming over in 20 minutes. And he goes, fuck you! And you go, oh, fuck it, I'll just do the dishes, right? So you end up going, I don't want to deal. I don't want to fucking go into Kurt's room and tell him to do the dishes. I'm just going to do the dishes because
Yeah.
I just want to be left alone. And so the people who just want to be left alone, micro or macro, are always going to be the ones who get fucked.
Yeah.
Because we're just going, I just want to raise my kids. I just want to fucking enjoy myself. I don't care if you wear a mask. You shouldn't care if I wear it. I just want to be left alone. It's never, you're going to lose.
You are going to
Because they're there to fuck with you. Or you had a neighbor who's just like, I'm going to fuck your shit up. And you're like, let's just stay in our own yards. You know what I mean? But you're going to lose.
Yeah. You are going to lose. And it's because, again, we go back to this point, it's not logical. I had a friend who I lost over COVID, as we all did. And I remember him ranting to me, going, Donald Trump is a fascist. He's a fascist. He's a fascist. This guy's Jewish. He should know more than anything else about fascism and the history and the dangers.
Of course. The comedy is everybody lost a handful of friends over COVID, but not to COVID.
Right.
They're perfectly healthy.
Yeah.
They just were arguing about vaccinations. All right, we need to take a quick break. We'll be back with the boys right after this. Well, let me tell you about Just Thrive. So much stress. You want to hit the pause button in life and just breathe. Just Calm from Just Thrive can help. Just Calm's all-natural blend of mood-lifting, psychobiotics, and brain-nourishing B vitamins helps you take back control and feel like your most cool and collected self. Multiple studies prove it works quickly to soothe everyday stress and sharpen focus in as little as 4 weeks. Or try Just Thrive Probiotic. I take that every day. A spore probiotic that banishes gas and bloat so your gut can produce more serotonin, which is your happy hormone. Plus, it supports better sleep as well. This is a great company. The owners were out. I had dinner with the owners, and Tina Anderson was on the show. She's a delight. They're very dedicated to this product. And believe me, the gut is controlling everything. So get it in order. It is Just Thrive, right, Dawson?
With Just Calm and Just Thrive Probiotic, you'll have the ultimate stress-fighting duo to help you feel cool, collected, and in control. Get 20% off your first 90-day bottle of Just Calm and Just Thrive Probiotic today. Just visit justthrivehealth.com and use promo code Adam.
Konstantin Kisin and Francis Foster both here. I want to spell trigonometry because I think it's spelled weirdly on my thing. Spell it out for us, the channel.
Trigger, like a gun trigger? Nometry. Nometry.
Oh, Nome.
Yeah.
Yes, that was left out of my spelling, which makes it sound weird. So, all right, a little typo. So, Palestine, what's thoughts? Israel. I can get us started with the BLM Chicago. Standing strong. Now, again, does BLM Chicago stand with terrorists and barbarism, or are they just trying to piss you off?
Or are they kneeling with them?
Oh, good point. All right, we'll play it. I'll show you the tweet that they sent out, which is, I stand with Palestine. This is all that it is, I guess. And now it's a black paratrooper with the Palestinian flag flying above the parachute. And I think people kind of know that they flew in to do some slaughtering. So it seems, and I purposely tried to shield myself from the insanity of the beheaded babies and stuff like that. It's like, look, if you're seeking that stuff out on the internet, you should also type in good therapists in my neighborhood while you're Googling that shit. Because, listen, just hearing about it it's damaging emotionally, psychologically enough. I don't need to see images of it, but I did see the images of the guys sort of parasailing in to go to the concert where they got to slaughter all the young and innocent people.
And this is such a good example of where you can't actually... I always try to give people the benefit of the doubt when I saw a lot of people seemingly apologizing and defending these terrorist attacks. You kind of go, look, they care about Palestinians, and Palestinians really are living in difficult circumstances, and it's a complicated issue, and maybe they're expressing empathy to people who really are struggling and suffering. But this ain't that.
No.
This is people celebrating mass murder.
Well, also, it suggests that your mindset BLM is if people are being oppressed and cultures are being destroyed, like Palestine, then it's within your rights to slaughter the oppressor. Well, that's what BLM is saying is going on in this country to them.
Yeah, and they've been saying it openly this week. This is what decolonization looks like. Right. And at the same time, they will tell you that the Arab countries around Israel, they don't want to they don't want to kill the Jews. No, they just care about Palestine. Well, if this is what decolonization looks like, it seems to me there's a contradiction there.
And you know what I thought when I saw this? I'm like, yeah, maybe they weren't the good guys.
BLM?
Yeah, maybe they weren't the good guys.
Maybe they weren't. Maybe they weren't. But they've helped so much. They've done so much for the black community.
Well, some of them have very large mansions now, so they've helped a few black people. It's been great.
They've been taken out of poverty into a mansion. That's the American dream, Adam.
Not to defend BLM, but as a longtime resident of Southern California, when you watch the news and they go, these BLM guys, they bought a mansion for $3.2 million in Topanga Canyon. I'm like, that's 2,200 feet. Yes, there's places in Georgia where you get a fountain and some acreage with that. Not here.
No, that just gets you onto the property ladder here.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a ranch house from the 50s with no central air. So, again, far be it for me to defend them, but let's be accurate.
Yeah.
So you wonder, back to BLM and many of these other organizations, is the plan help people or is it just burn it down?
I think, you know what's very difficult to do? It's to build something. You know that, Adam. It's the hardest thing in the world to build something because you get setbacks, you have challenges. There are things that happen that you couldn't have possibly predicted. There are events that happen that are unfair.
Anybody can tear down a statue and almost no one can create one.
Sculpt it, absolutely.
Right. No less than 1% of people could actually cast a bronze statue, but any drunk asshole could take it down, is basically what you're saying.
And whenever you're doing something, one of the first things you experience is your ideas about the world clash with reality. You go, oh, well, we'll just do this, and then you fail, and things don't go the way you intended. So you learn, you have to adjust, and in order to be successful in building anything, your view of reality has to be as close to reality as you possibly can. Whereas if you sit on the internet and tweet shit all day, your views don't have to have any bearing on reality whatsoever. You can say whatever the hell you want. You can tear everybody down without having any constructive ideas about how to move forward. That's the big thing. So this is what I was talking about in my speech that you played earlier. If more people were doing things in the real world, we would have less of this virtue signaling crap going on.
Well, it's funny. I now know how everyone thinks or what side of any political subject or even what shouldn't have been political, like COVID, is by their profession. When I meet a guy who's a carpenter or builds commercial buildings or is a commercial airline pilot or builds racing engines or something, like I hang around with the racing community a lot, and every single one of those guys was all on the same page, because in order to do what they do, you have to take a car, prep a car, bring it to the track, bring spare parts. When something breaks, I mean, some of these guys during qualifying or practice or something blow up a transmission, and you see them there at night underneath their car with the transmission on the ground. They're going to rebuild it in the parking lot and put it back. People who think that way take it to every other endeavor, and people who sit around in a cubicle and tweet in air conditioning all day, who have college degrees in sociology or whatever, they don't live in the real world. They don't live in the tangible world. You have to put things together in order to really understand how things work, and they've never done that. There's no doubt to me that the cause of all of this thinking is because nobody works on a farm anymore. Yep. Nobody has to repair a roof. Nobody has to mend a fence. They sailed right through high school, went right to a college campus, sat in air conditioning, they couldn't find the fucking dipstick of their car. Most of these people with these retarded ideas. If they got a flat on the side of the freeway, they could not pop the spare, get the bottle jack or the scissor jack out, get the lug wrench and fix it. They could not even come close to that. And it's this, that's why they're scrambled. All they have is ideas, emotions, notions, and thoughts. They don't have anywhere where the wrench, you have to have the right size socket and you have to have the right amount of torque on it. And so, or by the way, with these people, the race car people, engineers, stuff like that, people get killed if you fuck up.
Yep.
You'll get killed if you fuck up. When you're setting up scaffolding and then you're going to be on the top of the scaffolding on the 3rd floor installing windows and spreading stucco, you can't fuck that up.
No, and just imagine that you then are in Hollywood and you're an actor. Not only do you not live in the real world, you live in the make-believe world. That is literally your job. So of course you're going to be completely untethered by reality because you spend no time in it.
Right. It's literally like one of those acting roles where they go, well, I was going to play a cop, so I rode along with the LAPD for 2 weeks, except where it's life.
Yeah.
It's literally your life is a fantasy.
Your life is a fantasy, and you look at, in some ways, I can't blame people in LA for going as insane as they did over all of this stuff. Your life is a literal fantasy. Your houses are ridiculous. Your careers, obviously there's people who are living in poverty and struggling, of course, but you look at that upper strata, which are the people that we're talking about.
Who have the craziest ideas.
Yeah, who have the craziest ideas. Of course they're crazy. They don't live in reality. Every one of their whims is being tended to.
True. We have an interesting, someone who was living in reality, this clip of Joan Rivers from TMZ. I don't know what year this is, or even approximately what, I mean, obviously.
Probably around 2012, because she passed in 2014, didn't she, Joan? I think it was 2014 that she. 2014?
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, let's just say a couple years before she died. Somebody asked her about.
2014.
Wow. That's when she died. So this is.
That's when this clip is.
Oh, okay. So shortly before she died. At least she got her piece in before she left us about Palestine.
So I'm trying to get celebrity reactions to what's going on with the Palestinians and Israelis right now.
Let me just tell you, if New Jersey were firing rockets into New York, we would wipe them out. I am so bored. If we heard they were digging tunnels from New Jersey to New York, we would get rid of Jersey. So I don't want to hear anymore, oh, we'll do a partial truce. The Palestinians, you cannot throw rockets and expect people not to defend themselves.
What about the civilian casualty rate?
Then don't put your goddamn things in private homes. I'm sorry, don't you dare put weapon stashes in private homes and then we say get out. Of course we're gonna do it.
The response normally is where are the civilians supposed to go?
I don't care. They started it. You're all insane. They started it. What are you all saying? They started. The Israelis did not throw their. For months this has been going on.
How do you resolve
What are you
it?
supposed to do?
How do you resolve it?
How do I know? Because I have been over there. That's how I know. And I wish the world would know. And BBC should be ashamed of themselves. And CNN should be ashamed of themselves. And everybody, stop it already.
You know, like Dwight Howard tweeted, Free Palestine, took it back. Selena Gomez tweeted a pro-Gaza.
Oh, Selena Gomez. Oh, yeah, that college grad.
Well, by the way, that's not a compliment anymore.
No.
Selena said that.
All right. Okay. You could sense her frustration, and I've had this many times, where it's like, you are going to fire rockets into your neighboring nation, and then you're going to take your kids and put them in all the targets for retaliation, and you'll take your munitions and put them in churches and stuff like that. Why is that Israel's fault?
Well, the headquarters of Hamas is in the basement of a hospital.
Right.
They literally put it in the basement of a hospital.
What happened to most people on college campuses today have no fucking idea what's going on over there. They have no idea of the history. They have no idea that Israel bends over backwards to try to spare civilians. They even send like knock bombs and they alert people. They're like, look, there's a building and we're taking it out. So you got a half hour to clear everyone out of it. Nobody else does that.
Well, what's happening right now is Israel is messaging people in Palestine saying, we're going to have to deal with Hamas. You need to leave. Right. And Hamas is messaging them saying, stay in place.
Right.
That's literally what's happening.
Now, we have a insane, bloodthirsty, and by the way, it's not about land. It's about eliminating Jews. The anti-Semitic, it doesn't even do them justice. They want all Jews dead. And by the way, they don't want Israeli Jews dead. They want all Jews dead. It's the most cut and dried, even thing. You know, there's a lot of wars where there's like some gray area. You know what I mean? Like you sort of, maybe Vietnam, maybe the Korean conflict. There's certain wars where you're kind of like, I get what that guy's doing, but yeah, those people do have a right to defend their, whatever. This ain't that.
Yeah.
This is just one person. One side is barbarous and horrible and bloodthirsty and wants to eliminate a race of people, and the other wants to live in peace. This is as cut and dry as you can get. How does every fucking dumb shit on every college campus side with the wrong side?
But I think it's also important to remember as well, Adam, is that most people on either side just want to live a life of peace. And unfortunately, people get caught up in this stuff, Like I assume most people just want to be able to live their life.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
But now here's kind of the problem. If you said, look, most people in this country aren't serial killers. It's just about 18%. You go, well, fuck, you can't live. It's an unlivable country. You know what I mean? So they do this thing all the time where they go, most of the people in the Middle East, yeah, but they tolerate it and they let it happen and they vote for it. And there would be a rebellion if some version of that started happening here. And an alarmingly high majority of Muslims are sort of quietly against the Jews, if not, if not actively. They'll sort of look the other way.
And look, the history of Israel and Palestine is complicated. The thing that I find interesting is people always say, well, the Palestinians are living in an open prison and they can't get out. Well, the reason they can't get out is Egypt did what Donald Trump promised to do, which is they built a wall to prevent people from Gaza getting out. And I don't know if you saw this, but in every country in the region, there was massive protests of solidarity when this terrorist attack happened. None of them are taking any Palestinian refugees who will naturally want to leave to get away from the response.
I'm more fascinated with what's going on the campus of Stanford and Berkeley than this. This has been going on for thousands of years. It's trouble in the Middle East. Yeah. I've heard it since the day after I was born. I get what this is. I do not get why every 19-year-old on campus got their brainwashed by it. And by the way, when you talk to them, they go, well, they literally say that Israel is doing what Palestine is doing.
Well, actually, if you abstract at the biggest level possible here, I think it's, in an odd way, they're anti-American.
Yes.
They see Israel as Americans' protege in this war, as Americans' dog, war dog.
No,
and so anything the United States does bad,
we're back.
Enemies of America, good.
We're back to the 17-year-old who just dates black guys. Do you like black guys, or do you know your dad hates black guys, and you're just doing the opposite of whatever because all of you are just so angry and just rebelling. I say it all the time. It's like if you play with your dog and you get one of those, rubber hoop things and they bite on it and they start pulling. Their instinct is just they shake their head and they pull backwards, right? So you go, oh, they're going that direction. No, you can spin around. They'll go the other direction and all directions in between. What they're doing is they're pulling. Their instinct is to do the opposite of whatever your direction is. It's not that, oh, he loves north. It's he loves whatever it is, whichever direction you're going, he's going the other direction.
I also think as well, Adam, it comes back to the point of ideology, whereby you download this way of looking at the world. And it's very comforting because, number one, you get a tribe, and we're genetically wired to be part of the tribe, and that is very comforting to us. And number two as well is that it allows you to be lazy. So you don't actually have to go and do the reading and think for yourself and analyze actually what is happening, because that involves a lot of work. And number two, it's quite uncomfortable because you're challenging preconceptions that you have about a particular issue.
Yes.
And number three as well, it means that you then start to disagree with people because you go, well, actually, no, I know what you're saying, but I see it kind of differently. And let me just explain why. Oh, I'm a racist. Great.
There's a tape Chris can find, or Dawson can find. It's a Pragertopia thing. I didn't prompt you on this because I wasn't planning on getting into it, but Dennis Prager did just a 5-minute video. It's some years old that just kind of lays out, here's the history of Israel and Palestine and that region. It's all you need in 5 minutes. And I don't think people understand. By the way, it's funny that everyone on the left hates Pragertopia. And it's like, yeah, you hate them because they make their point in 5 minutes and you guys have no rebuttals to it. And that's why you're calling it dangerous. But I was listening to it the other day. And, you know, it's a complex subject that people really can't wrap their heads around and certainly don't know the history of. And this is a sort of bite-sized version, if you guys can find it, of 5 minutes, and you know it's a little longer than the clips we normally play, but it's very informative, and you'll be an expert on the region in 5 minutes. We'll take a quick break, and we'll come right back, and we'll play you this. Well, good news! It's O Rewards Member Appreciation Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Get the most out of your membership. Shop, earn points, and get rewards sent right to your phone or email. If you're not an O Rewards member yet, sign up. It's quick and it's easy. You can do it online or in the store if you like. Just ask one of their professional parts people about joining O Rewards next time you visit, and you can start earning points on your first purchase. Sign up for both email and text and get even more out of your membership. And right now, members receive 2 times, 3 times, up to 8 times O Rewards points on select purchases. Those bonus points can help you get to your next reward even faster. You receive a $5 reward for every 150 O Rewards points, and you can use your reward on your next in-store or online purchase. So don't miss O Rewards Member Appreciation Month now at your local O'Reilly Auto Parts store and O'ReillyAuto.com. Viator experiences. That's what people love most about travel. Whitewater rafting, Hawaii, catamaran, Catalina zip lining. Yep, done it all. That's the experience part. Viator, it's a website, an app for booking travel experiences like seeing Niagara Falls or a guided Eiffel Tower tour. Over 300,000 bookable experiences in 190 countries. Millions of real travelers' reviews. So you have the information you need to book the best activities for your trip. With Viator, there's always flexibility and support with free cancellation, payment options, and 24/7 service. Download the Viator app now and use the code Viator10 for 10% off your first booking using the app. One app, over 300,000 travel experiences, and you'll remember them all. Do more with Viator. TRIGGERnometry is the YouTube channel. New episodes every Wednesday and Sundays. Over 40 million downloads. Congratulations, Sanity. This thing's 9 years old, but I think it's worth it just as a little Reader's Digest version of the history of Israel.
When I did my graduate studies at the Middle East Institute at Columbia University's School of International Affairs, I took many courses on the question of the Middle East conflict. Semester after semester, we studied the Middle East conflict as if it was the most complex conflict in the world, when in fact, it is probably the easiest conflict in the world to explain. It may be the hardest to solve, but it is the easiest to explain. In a nutshell, it's this. One side wants the other side dead. Israel wants to exist as a Jewish state and to live in peace. Israel also recognizes the right of Palestinians to have their own state and to live in peace. The problem, however, is that most Palestinians and many other Muslims and Arabs do not recognize the right of the Jewish state of Israel to exist. This has been true since 1947, when the United Nations voted to divide the land called Palestine into a Jewish state and an Arab state. The Jews accepted the United Nations partition, but no Arab or any other Muslim country accepted it. When British rule ended on May 15, 1948, the armies of all the neighboring Arab states, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Transjordan, and Egypt, attacked the one-day-old state of Israel in order to destroy it. But to the world's surprise, the little Jewish state survived. Then it happened again. In 1967, the dictator of Egypt, Gamal Abdel Nasser, announced his plan, in his words, to destroy Israel. He placed Egyptian troops on Israel's border, and armies of surrounding Arab countries were also mobilized to attack. However, Israel preemptively attacked Egypt and Syria. Israel did not attack Jordan and begged Jordan's king not to join the war. But he did. And only because of that did Israel take control of Jordanian land, specifically the West Bank of the Jordan River. Shortly after the war, the Arab states went to Khartoum, Sudan, and announced their famous three no's: no recognition, no peace, and no negotiations. What was Israel supposed to do? Well, one thing Israel did a little more than a decade later in 1978 was to give the entire Sinai Peninsula, an area of land bigger than Israel itself and with oil, back to Egypt, because Egypt, under new leadership, signed a peace agreement with Israel. So Israel gave land for the promise of peace with Egypt, and it has always been willing to do the same thing with the Palestinians. All the Palestinians have ever had to do is recognize Israel as a Jewish state and promise to live in peace with it. But when Israel has proposed trading land for peace, as it did in 2000, when it agreed to give the Palestinians a sovereign state in more than 95% of the West Bank and all of Gaza, the Palestinian leadership rejected the offer and instead responded by sending waves of suicide terrorists into Israel. Meanwhile, Palestinian radio, television, and school curricula remain filled with glorification of terrorists, demonization of Jews, and the daily repeated message that Israel should cease to exist. So it's not hard to explain the Middle East dispute. One side wants the other dead. The motto of Hamas, the Palestinian rulers of Gaza, is, "We love death as much as the Jews love life." There are 22 Arab states in the world, stretching from the Atlantic Ocean to the Indian Ocean. There is one Jewish state in the world, and it is about the size of New Jersey. In fact, tiny El Salvador is larger than Israel. Finally, think about these two questions. If tomorrow Israel laid down its arms and announced, "We will fight no more," what would happen? And if the Arab countries around Israel laid down their arms and announced, "We will fight no more," what would happen? In the first case, there would be an immediate destruction of the state of Israel and mass murder of its Jewish population. In the second case, there would be peace the next day. As I said at the outset, it is a simple problem to describe. One side wants the other dead. And if it didn't, there would be peace. Please remember this. There has never been a state in the geographic area known as Palestine that was not Jewish. Israel is the third Jewish state to exist in that area. There was never an Arab state, never a Palestinian state, never a Muslim or any other state. That's the issue. Why can't the one Jewish state the size of El Salvador be allowed to exist? That is the Middle East problem. I'm Dennis Prager.
They hate that guy. It's so funny. Who they hate. Yeah, well, there you go, everybody. Now what? I mean, just show that to every fucking 19-year-old jack-off on a college campus, please, for Christ's sake. It's simple.
But and again, we go back to, who to apportion blame to, but is it really the kids' fault when they go to college and they're being filled with all this stuff? If this is what you're told day in, day out by people who you have been told and you are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to are experts in their field, you're going to listen to them, aren't you? That's the entire point of being there.
Well, but what about when you get into your mid-40s and you're still going along with the same bullshit?
Which is the point that I was going to make. I think for 95% of the people that you're seeing talking about this issue, they don't give a shit about Palestine or Israel. This is a way of reflecting the fact that generations of people now in this country and in our country they've been trained to hate their own country.
Yes.
That's what this is about. The values of their country. They believe that we are the most evil people who've ever lived. We are colonial oppressors. We're all racist. We're all this, and everything else is just meat for that grinder to them. They want to plug. They will plug any conflict into that wherever it's happening. They only see it through: is the West the bad guy here? And the West is always the bad guy here.
I completely concur. I got a front row seat to it with my hippie mom and her weird sort of communist mom and stuff. It's basically, so what they do, you hear all the politicians do it. You hear all the squad and all those jack-offs. They're always like, what do you mean? I love this country. I love this country. But you have to understand the history of the oppression of the indigenous people and the savagery, the way we treat it. And so it would be like this. It'd be like if you knew a couple and you spoke to that couple and the wife would say, "Oh, I love my husband, Steve. I have great unabiding love and respect, and I care deeply for the man." And then everything that came out of her mouth after that's what a lazy sack of shit he was. I told that guy to mow the lawn 28 times. Finally, I had to do it myself. At a certain point, you go, she's never said a good thing about Steve.
Yeah.
But if you stop her and you go, well, it really sounds like you hate your husband, Steve. Well, no, there's great love. There's great love and respect and affection. Anyway, let me get back to what a sack of shit he is. It's like, do you love this country? Because at every turn, you are criticizing it.
Yeah, and it's also a completely ahistorical view of the world because everybody had an empire. If you made it, you had an empire. That's how it works. That's how history works. And when you've got an empire, you're going to have slaves and you're not going to behave very well.
Come on, let's not. The Mongols were woke. Do you not know that?
yeah. Genghis Khan, he, him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Rainbow colors, that was their flag.
Yeah.
Yeah, first off, I always want to say, like, what standard are we being held to in the United States? Because it doesn't exist anywhere else, and it never existed anywhere else.
Right.
What is every nation had slavery?
Yeah,
we fought a war to end slavery. Now you want to go, well, you shouldn't have had slavery in the first place, and I would go, I agree. But what is this standard? Do you know what I'm saying? Nobody else fought a war to end it, and they all had it. So why are we supposed to be so much better than everyone else? And I would argue we are because we fought the war. But
yeah, well, this is the thing I always found weird because I'm British, but I'm not from the UK. I grew up in Russia, Ukraine, Uzbekistan, all over that part of the world. And when I came to the UK, I found it very weird because I was taught about British and American history from a more objective outsider's perspective. So I know, for example, that the British ended slavery. Right? They ended it. Right. And yet, when I came to Britain, I suddenly found that all these people think that Britain invented slavery.
Right.
And how? And I still can't wrap my head around it because the British spent a huge amount of money, tens of thousands of lives were lost around the world. And what they were doing is forcing Arab traders, for example, in the Middle East to stop trading in slaves, because the trans-Saharan slave trade, the slave trade to take Africans from Africa into the Middle East, it was worse than the transatlantic slave trade. And they went in and stopped it at the cost of human lives and lots of money, and all sorts of other efforts were made, right? And yet, the example I always give is like, imagine, when these fucking vegans win, right? And eating meat is considered evil. Imagine America's the first country to end the eating of animals. It's like then blaming America for being the worst one.
Right.
That makes no sense.
And also as well, can you imagine a vegan army?
No.
You're done, mate. You're getting invaded. They're going to destroy you.
I picture them. Remember that clip from a month ago where it was a hot day in Britain and they had the marching band out there and their fur hats and everyone was just collapsing from heat stroke? I think that's what the vegan army. A lot of guys falling, holding a trombone.
Yeah.
And so then the question is, I don't know what the statistics are, but we're in a state of decline, and it's because of this. 100 years ago, 5% of the nation went to college, and maybe 50 years ago it was up to 31% or 28% or something like that. Now, the number of people that are going off to college versus going off to a quarry or a mill or strapping on some bags and swinging a hammer, many more going to college, and we're encouraging it. Like it used to be a time when they go like, hey, son, you're not going to college. You're going to work in the family business, and we do unfinished furniture, and you're going to go down in the shop and start sanding wood. But now it's I have kids. You get beat over the fucking head with college, and God forbid you give some answer like I give, which is, look, if someone wants to go to college, he can go to college. If he doesn't, he doesn't. He has to go work or has to go do. What do you mean? He's got to get to college. He's got to get to college. Like people, mostly women, it's like their fucking hair's on fire about, well, what about college? What about coming? You didn't get to college. You got to get him a counselor. He's got to be tutored. And you got to start now looking for colleges and blah, blah, blah. And then they go to these places and they get their brains scrambled with not even their fault. Just whatever the subject, they get it scrambled. So now we're taking the lion's share of our population. We're pushing them through some sort of re-education camp that's called higher learning. They're getting their heads scrambled by tenured, the closest thing there is to communism is basically a college campus. Here's a job, old guy with a sweater vest. You can never be fired. You're tenured. So say whatever you want, do whatever you want, and get paid and never get fired. Go there, get scrambled, then they get unleashed. And they don't go back to the basement and OD on a futon. They go to work. They go to the government. They go to the news outlets.
It's telling you what to think.
They show up. And what we're really seeing now, I believe, in this country, is that chickens have come home to roost. It's been long enough that these people are now in their 40s and they're making policy, baby.
And telling you what to think in the media. And I actually think now it's also the schools. We were just in Austin. Everybody you meet in Austin has just moved to Austin. And you ask them why, they're all fleeing New York and LA. And the ones who have kids, they're the ones that care about it the most, because they're like, I don't want to take little Timmy and send them to a school where he's going to be told that his parents are racist, he's a girl, blah, 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 blah. Like, people are terrified of the education system now when you talk to them, in this country, in the UK as well. And then, like you say, college is the next level. It's the NBA for this craziness.
But, this is why you need to send your child to a crap inner city school.
Yes.
Because it's very difficult to decolonize a curriculum when the teacher's getting a chair thrown at their head.
I completely concur. Yeah, when you're running for your life and there's no heat or central air, all the vegan talk seems to... Yeah, because that's a luxury item.
Of course it's a luxury item. The fact, nothing is more of a luxury discussion than everybody sitting down talking about gender. Do you think people are talking about gender in the front line of Ukraine?
No.
Or whilst people are getting rockets fired at them. Nobody's going, I'm about to be taken hostage. By the way, what are my pronouns?
Yeah. No, I look, it's people out of problems who literally, and there's also, I've always had this thing too, because Gavin Newsom in California just made a law that we're going to have an ebony alert, like there's no more amber alerts, or there'll be an amber alert and an ebony alert, which is we specifically look for black people, but they have their own separate alert now.
What?
We're going to,
What?
You can find it. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. But it's also...
Well, what do you mean they're going to go look for black people?
Who are missing, not in general.
Okay, right. I was like, we're going to put an ebony alert. Right, let's go and find Reg. I'm like, what?
We have something called an amber alert, which is confusing because it's a name of a girl and a color.
Yeah.
So it's confusing to me why we would choose.
So you could go and look for Chinese people?
For amber.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can look for any race in amber. But because we weren't looking as vigorously for black kids that were missing, evidently, then... we now have started their own alert system, just if black kids are missing, and it's called an ebony alert. We just put that. Now we have 200,000 homeless people flopped out and dying everywhere, but this is his focus. That's my point.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's Dawson. You'll see it. I know it sounds like I'm making it up.
It does.
Yeah,
it does.
Well,
sound like you're making it up.
And that's how I know it's true.
Right.
Yeah.
The shit that comes out of...
That is so true nowadays.
Shit.
Whenever someone tells you something crazy, you go, that's probably true.
Yeah,
the
that
shit
makes
that
sense.
comes out of California now, and by the way, you go, 50 years ago, or not 50 years, 5 years ago would sound like you're making it up. Oh, we have this? We have a clip of it? Okay.
Interested that you had two routes to go. One was to create this new alert, the ebony alert. The other would have been to call the police on the carpet and say, we're going to monitor what you do with an amber alert and make sure you're representing us. Why did you choose the former?
Because we've called law enforcement on the carpet for decades as it relates to disparities and the lack of resources when it comes to addressing crime of any nature in the African-American community. So we felt it was a time for action. No one questioned when we passed the feather alert last year for the missing indigenous individuals that we know are missing every year in the state and this nation, as well as our silver alert for our seniors who come up missing. So this speaks to the need. The data clearly speaks to it, understanding that African Americans make up only 13% of the state and this nation's population.
All right, listen. This is so progress is every group is going to have their own alert.
I'm half Latino. Where's my alert?
Yeah, where's your alert?
Where's my alert?
It's coming.
Where's that?
Well, we're going to have to get an Asian and a Jewish, and everyone needs their own alert.
What about white people alert? When are they going to drop that one?
We have Amber. That's ours.
That's the white one.
Well, it's supposed to be everyone's. As if the cops are like, we got a 9-year-old who's been abducted in an unmarked van. What color is she?
Latina.
Who cares? She's on the 101. He's doing 110 miles an hour. He's going for Mexico. Did you see her? Is she a little bit dark complexion?
Yeah. Hit the burrito alert.
What's her name? Her name's Latifah. No. I'm going to have a donut. You call me back when a Tammy's been abducted or Cindy has been abducted or maybe a Dakota.
Yeah.
Then I'll get off my chair. All right. Well, the world's coming to an end, fellas. And so is our show. I'm going to be in San Francisco, Cobb's Comedy Club this weekend. 4 shows, Friday and Saturday. So come on out and say hi there. YouTube channel, TRIGGERnometry, is the channel with millions and millions of downloads and books. And everyone should just go there, right? Go to the YouTube channel. Yes?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. Also available as a podcast if you like it and you want to do it on the go.
YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter at TriggerPod.
Indeed.
Yeah, we're everywhere with that.
Konstantin Francis, always makes me feel saner speaking to you guys. So come back anytime.
Appreciate it, brother.
Thank you.
I'd love to come back on your show whenever you'll have me.
Absolutely.
We'd love to.
We'd love to.
And until next time, it's Adam Carolla saying mahalo.